All right, we are back with another Pickled Dragon Unscripted. As always, we have Dracoya with the invisible glass of wine. There it is. It just reappeared. It's magic. What kind of wine are you enjoying?
I have a lovely French Pinot Noir. I am enjoying my foreign wine while I can before the tariffs kick in.
Ooh, we'll see what happens. And I'm enjoying my scotch. This is my Aberfeldy 16. This is a very special scotch because I only drink it when it's special things are going on, and today we have a special video.
We do.
Yes.
But
So,
before we get into it,
oh,
uh, we have a
Mad Scribe
lovely new
magazine.
magazine.
This is a big deal to me because I really appreciate that there is somebody trying to keep gaming magazines in print. And you can get them through Drive-Through RPG. But it's just, oh, look who it is.
Look at who that
Toya,
is.
she's in the magazine where they feature a little article on miniature painting.
They
This
have
one
miniature
actually,
painting in here. They've got a lot of different articles in here. I am genuinely surprised at the quality that is in this magazine. So links are down below. Go buy a copy. I think you'll really enjoy it.
yes, this and that edition, that particular issue has featured on it our friend Griffin Maria. She is a cosplayer who does some pretty amazing work. So check it out for sure. Um, yeah, Mad Scribe Magazine, Drive Through RPG. I think it's a quarterly magazine, so
It is.
once or four times a year.
Yeah, so
Um,
sign up for this one. There's paint tutorials, there's articles, there's dungeon crawls, there's all kinds of fun things in there. And then in the next one, I'm already working on an even better PDF. So it's very exciting.
I love it. Love it.
Uh-huh.
So this particular video, we are featuring something very near and dear to my heart. It is the very first adventure I ever published. And it is called The Days of Blight, an offering of innocence. Now, this particular adventure is one that I ran in first edition days, second edition, third edition, and it was my wife who actually encouraged me to actually put it down and for 5e and share it with the world. So that's what we did. And this one you can
Here's to your
actually,
wife. She's a good woman.
yes. And this one you can actually get hard copies of. This was one of the very first adventures on the DM's Guild that was put into print. So you can order a print copy of it too. But without getting too much into those boring details, you can go to you can go to DM's Guild and check it out.
I
But
would even argue that there's a part in Baldur's Gate 3 that is loosely based on your module.
it's possible.
I
It's
think
possible.
so.
I don't know. I never played Baldur's Gate 3, so
What do you guys think after the video? Comment, like, subscribe.
yes. So this adventure is kind of the fusion between a couple. I'm a very big history buff, but I also love horror movies. So I had the idea back in the day. Now, this is during the first edition days. I wanted to write an adventure that um, kind of mirrored the Salem witch trials. Only I wanted there to be a witch, you know? And so,
But it was more spooky than that, right?
yeah,
You
I
also
mean,
took it
the
from.
his you got it's this is a heavily heavy role playing experience. Although there is some combat in it, and there is quite a lot of horror elements to it.
So think
So,
Blair Witch Project and the Salem Witch Trials.
yeah, yeah, like the Blair Witch with the Salem Witch
Yeah.
Trials. So, yeah. Um, Now, the first thing, before we really get into it, I want to tell you that this adventure could be run if your party really wants to dive into the role-playing aspect. Um, it's taken me as long as 20 hours to run this adventure. But I've run it in as little as 4. It just depends on how much people want to get into the weeds of the all of the interactions. There's like 60 NPCs. Every one of them has a story, and virtually every family, there's like 15, 16 different families in this little community. Virtually all of them have their own little miniature adventure hook as well. So depending on how far you want to get into that, you can definitely um, dive both feet in and have a really good time, spooky time. So as this is a horror adventure, you need to set the atmosphere and you need to like build that tension. So a few things I always did: turn down the lights. We've played by candlelight in the past. And one of one of the features of the adventure is inclement weather. So it's constantly raining. So I would have a rain and thunderstorm soundtrack running. However, there are moments when the rain would just suddenly break, and that's usually when the night hag, the witch, was active.
And
So,
it's so subtle. I wonder if your party's even going to notice at first.
yeah, so what I would do is rather than say the rain has stopped, I would just stop the soundtrack and see if
Mm.
anyone noticed. If they didn't pick up on it, I would have like NPCs start getting agitated because they would know. They would know that something bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so let's dive into this thing. I've this adventure I've run for countless groups and it's evolved over time to what it is now. So of course, we've got lots to share. So let's share. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do this a little different this time. Share
I'm
the,
really excited for you guys. This was a lot of fun when he was going over it with me. So,
um, so these are maps that were actually just watercolors that my wife did. Um, and
again, amazing wife.
yeah, she's always very supportive. So we've got over here the village of Holmford, and it's on this little islet. You can see there's a river on one side, a lake on the other, and there are 2 bridges that get allow access outside of the islet. However, the witch, if you will, the hag, um, her first order of business is to isolate this community. Okay. Now, before we really dive into that, let's talk about a little bit of history. This community was founded 40 years earlier by worshipers of Saint Cuthbert. And I chose them very specifically because I was thinking, what deity in Dungeons and Dragons would most closely capture or resemble the Puritans of the Salem Witch Trials. And to me, the cudgelers, the righteous order of Saint Cuthbert, I think fits that bill perfectly. So 40 years earlier, the the community was founded. 10 years after the community was founded, you have the first time the hag will have visited the community. So she's got a magic item called the Cauldron of Blight. And deep in the forest of the Hornwood, this forest is called the Hornwood. She has what we call the witch's barrow. It's like just a mound of earth, and underneath that, she's got her little lair. And she's got this thing called the Cauldron of Blight. And the cauldron gives her many powers, one of which is control over the weather. So 30 years ago, 5 children go missing. The crops fail. The community is kind of turned on its head, but the community survives. Now, this first instance of the hag visiting the community wasn't enough though to shatter the community, and of course that kind of is an invitation for the hags to be like, oh well, if you're willing to stick around for more, we'll happily do that. So 30 years passes, and now we're in the present day. And the echoes of the first five abductions, the first five missing children, resonate in the community to this day. Um, there are certain buildings in the village that have been abandoned, and they everyone is kind of on edge about certain families. So certain families have kind of turned against one another, and they hold this grudge. One family lost a child, this family didn't. There's a lot of that goes on, but they have stayed in Holmford, and this has invited the the hags to return. So if we click forward, like I said, this is a heavy role-playing experience. So there are tons of role-playing benefits to uh for the party to solve that they will be granted XP for. So uh help these two villagers and learn as much as you can about the witch, and you'll get this 100 XP. Make an ally of this particular villager because he's kind of the level-headed one, and you need his help. But there are all these instances throughout the adventure where the party, if they put in the time and the effort to actually role play, there's an experience award associated with that. Um, and there's also experience penalties should they, you know, kill a villager. And that's the one thing to note is that, there's the Salem witch trial aspect to this adventure. They're going to start accusing one another. They're literally going to hang some people unless the party can stop them. And the thing to note is that these aren't bad people. They are scared people doing irrational things. And so it would be easy for a party to go in there and just start knocking heads. But that's not what this is about. This is a low level, second level adventure. So these villagers can defend themselves against a low level party. So there's enough of them, especially. So, the focus should be on the on role playing, which I know isn't for everybody, but that's my wheelhouse. Um, so as I said, I think the first thing we really need to explore is the cauldron of blight. And this cauldron is the tool that the hags use to really to isolate, control, and turn the village against itself. And also, and most importantly of all, steal the children. Now, the reason that the hags want to steal the children is because there is a coven of night hags called the Grey Coven. And the Grey Coven serves a creature called the Hag Lich, Shorir the Hag Lich. And in order to join the Grey Coven, you have to make an offering to Shorir. And that offering, it comes in a sacrifice of 5 innocents. And so this is ultimately the goal of the Night Hags of the Night Hag, I should say, is to steal the 5 children, um, turn the community against itself, basically spread chaos. And there's a side thing that comes up. There is a druid that has moved into the area named Berenice. And Berenice she is searching for clues to this Grey Coven. She's suddenly come on the trail of this coven. And so the hags, of course, want to keep their coven a secret. So they're going to do everything they can to point the finger at Berenice and get the villagers to do the dirty work of taking out Berenice. She's the witch. And there's going to be a number of different ways they're going to do that. With the cauldron, she's able to scry at will upon the village. And I'm not going to go into, there's a lot of detail here as to how and why this is able to happen. I'm just going to kind of give a, bird's eye view of what's going on. They can dominate person. Now, this dominate is the next few abilities are reserved exclusively for the grabbing of children. Because if a child happens to make its saving throw, it's only able to be used a couple times per day. So there is a definite reservation of the hags to use it on anything else in case they fail one night to take a child. So they can dominate a child, they can cast Dimension Door through the cauldron as they scry. So even if a parent is clutching their kid tight, suddenly that kid just could vanish out of their hand.
Poof.
It can cast invisibility, so they could dominate a kid, dimension door it away, and cast
Past invincibility.
invisibility.
So no one could even find him if they wanted to.
Yes.
Oh, this is so good.
So control weather. This is where all that rain comes in. It's going to be pounding rain. And there's going to be so much rain that drops in the region that those two bridges I had showed you on the map that allow access to the islet where the Holmford is will get washed out and everyone will be trapped on the islet. There's no way in and no way out because the rivers have risen so high.
Now your party definitely has motivation to try and sit and figure out what's going on.
Yes. Blight. Now the blight is something that the hag will turn on the crops in the region, the livestock, just basically pulverize the hopes of these people.
And there
And
are several days of blight. Hey, the title.
yes, the days of night. The awaken the wood ability. If we go back to the map here, the hornwood is a dense forest that the hag will literally awaken. And if anyone tries to penetrate to the barrow, um, all of these awakened trees will just pound them into oblivion. And there's really, I mean, there is a chance, and you'll have to read the adventure to understand how this would work. There is a chance that somebody could penetrate into the woods and outsmart the awakened trees and bushes and whatnot. But it's a long shot, and it's a very difficult task. But you could check it out in the adventure. Um, and of course, a night haunt. Now
Oh
this,
yeah. This is my
yes, so
favorite part.
the night hag enters the astral plane or is it ethereal plane? Enters the ethereal plane and haunts different people around the village, including other children that they're not targeting. That they'll plant all kinds of ideas and subversive ideas in people's heads, and there is an entire story arc where she begins to night haunt a particular party member. So that ends up being very significant later. All right, pushing on. So the night hag, the abilities of the night hag. Yeah, so here it is, the ethereal plane. Now there are ways to protect against that, protection from good and evil circles, all that stuff. But those spells, they're not going to last all night. So that's very difficult to overcome. The night hag will eventually make its way in. Um, the other thing and this one's huge, this change shape ability.
Mm.
The night hag can take on the form of a small or medium female humanoid. And the hag will it will infiltrate the village dressed as a woman, or in my case, when I do it, it's a little girl. Um,
And look
and
at that little girl. Oh,
yeah,
she's
you'll
so
never
sad.
suspect her.
You just want to give her a hug and give her some hot chocolate. The poor baby girl.
Yes, and she can have access to the whole village. Now, the I have a picture of every NPC in the village.
He
Uh,
does.
so when I run this, there are moments when, for example, a villager may look at that little girl and realize that girl is not a member of our community. Who is that? What is going on here? And the party, of course, looking at this image is going to be like, "Oh, don't you dare touch this little girl!" You're just hysterical over what's going on. And so the visuals are very, very important. Uh, so yeah, so know your night hag's abilities because that's very critical. So as we step through here, here are the first five abductions that happened 30 years earlier. That will be
Yeah.
significant because the party has the opportunity to not only rescue these five kids from the hag, and this is another important point to make is that the cauldron of blight is used also to make the sacrifice to Shorir. So all five kids will be taken, but no one will be harmed until the very last night. And this is important because it will give the party a chance to rescue him. But also, the power of the cauldron will be turned inward. In other words, the awakened wood will be put back to rest. The rain will stop. There will be a window where the party can can actually blitz its way to the barrow. Now, the question is, how does the party find the barrow? And that is we'll skip past there. The ghosts of the kids that were taken before are haunting that a manor that had been abandoned in the town. And so through these ghosts, there is a uh there's a large story arc here with the ghosts, but you can not only try to save the five kids that were taken in this instance of the Days of Blight, but you can also save the spirits, the souls of the kids who were taken before. So you have a chance to really save all 10. Now, Mercy
Their
Wint
their
is,
eyes are all gone.
yes, that's part of the sacrifice, is that the hags take the eyes.
Oh,
Terrible, terrible stuff.
yeah,
But
but it's so good for storytelling.
But Mercy Wint is actually an interesting character because when she was first taken, she was known as the village bully. And she was very mean and nasty to all the other kids. And when she was the very first kid taken in the first instance of the Days of Blight. And she thought, well, if I help these guys, if I help the hags, they're going to give me power,
Why
you know?
not? Yeah,
Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
so she totally was all in with with these night hags. Sadly for her, they showed her no mercy for
Sure.
mercy. And but what they did do, what the hags did do is bind the souls of the kids to that abandoned manor, and Mercy is just in there tormenting them. So there's an element of rescuing these kids from Mercy, and one of them, Elijah here, he was actually able to escape the manor, got away from Mercy, and sadly he ends up with a lady named Agnes Sumpson, who begins telling everyone that she's talking to the spirit of this kid. So everyone immediately thinks she's a witch, so she's one of the first that gets grabbed up. So if we back up a little bit, uh, I created a timeline. It's in the adventure for you kind of follow. So the crops begin to fail on the first day of the of the timeline. Crops fail, livestock become ill, the wildlife in the Hornwood begin to flee out to surrounding areas. And of course, the rains become just absolutely a deluge on the second day. And it's a cold rain, 40 degrees out. So it's that really sucky rain. And it is the rain basically forces people to stay in their homes, right? Now, whenever the hag stops the rain in order to allow a child to be stolen, because the child will actually have to make its way up to the barrow, and of course the witch wants the kid to be able to make it to the barrow, so she'll cut the rain out, but a fog will rise during the time that there's no rain going. It's a dense fog. Now, one of the things you notice, like behind me, there's a red moon behind me. Starting on this first day of the timeline, a harvest moon, a lunar eclipse
Just
coming,
like that one behind you.
yes, will rise. So you'll have this red moon.
But it
And
lasts the
more,
whole time,
yeah,
right?
it lasts the whole time. Exactly.
Ooh.
So the fog, when it rises, is not white fog, it's a red fog.
Ooh.
And of course, during those times, the villagers will have learned, and the party eventually will learn that holy crap, the witch is on the move. There's going to be a kid taken. And so the hag will unleash things in the fog. There are zombies that they have positioned in certain places, and they have death dogs and other kind of nasty challenges, including during these times when the fog rises is the only time Mercy Went leaves the manor and starts wandering around in the town and attacking people that are foolish enough to try to stop the witch's plans. So yeah, so day two we got the rains. Day three, uh, the minister has Agnes Sumpson hung for witchcraft. She's the one that saw the little spirit of Elijah and began taking care of him. But Minister Scrim also dies himself as the witch, as the hag turns mercy on him. So Mercy Wint
Ooh.
goes to Minister Scrim's church and takes him out. Day four, the first kid vanishes. So now the village who remembers that 30 years earlier, all the
Hmm.
issues that were going on, with the fog and the kids disappearing and the rains and whatnot, they with Cheris Kellard vanishing, um,
They're
there's
starting to put two and two together.
yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that this is happening again. Now,
Yeah.
day five, the heroes arrive. So the party arrives kind of in the middle of all this. And
Why did you
during
have them arrive in the middle and not in the beginning?
because I wanted the hysteria to be there. I wanted the tension to be high immediately upon arrival.
Okay.
Um, and the the heavy rains also will destroy the bridges behind the party as they cross the bridges. So like there's a snapping noise and the bridges collapse and the you know there's this sense of isolation that the DM should really try to push. Like I said, raise the tension and set the atmosphere. So as they're going into the village, they'll look around and they'll see all the crops are wilting from the blight. The livestock are sick and dying, and they're already coming in, and all these eyes are staring out of the villagers' windows at them suspiciously. Who are these strangers here at this?
I mean, because they're coming in at the like worst time for this
Exactly.
village. So are they connected?
Yeah. And also the same night that the party arrives, another child vanishes, Abigail Shaster. And so
Oh.
there's like, the party will push on to the inn. There's a place called the Saints Rest in town. And during that time, and it's really starting at this point, you'll see I'll make reference to modules. At the end of the adventure, there are cinematic modules that the party can experience. So the face of evil. Aldo Barth is a local who, and here's his picture.
Oh, yeah, he's my favorite.
Aldo Barth is a local who, when he was a young kid, Mercy went tormented mercilessly, and she actually tortured his dog to death, his pet dog. And so when he became old enough, but well, in any case, so when she vanished during the first days of Blight, it was almost like a relief for him, but he was still kind of traumatized by the whole experience of the village, right?
Of course. Who
So
wouldn't
when
be?
he became old enough, he went off and left the village, and his backstory is he fought the Orc Wars, and he kind of comes back this shattered alcoholic, having experienced all these horrors basically his whole life, and on this night of the timeline, so we go back to the timeline, on this night, the face of evil is him coming to the inn, having just seen Mercy wandering the streets. and he's just terrified of what just happened. And
Oh.
so there is a moment there where if the party agrees to go search Old Wint Manor, where all the ghosts are hiding or trapped, depending on if you're Mercy or not, um, he will give you a magical sword to help you along your way, which you'll need because Mercy is a full-on ghost.
Yeah.
She's
Have you
for
ever
the
completed the campaign where the party didn't get the sword?
No, no, I've run this many times. I've never had an instance where they weren't like sympathetic to Aldo, understand that he's kind of a broken individual. The owner of the Saints Rest is a guy named Gideon Wint, and he was Mercy's older brother, and
Ooh.
he's also Aldo's best friend.
Oh.
And so even if Aldo's not willing to share all of the trials of his life, Gideon will pull the party aside, like, excuse my friend, he's drunk and he's had a hard time, and he's had all these horrible experiences, and so they learn a lot about him.
By the way, guys, Matt, you've done such a great job at creating backstories for every single character. And we're doing our best to give you a good general overview, but there is so much that we just don't have time to get into. So you guys really need to pick up a copy. The links are going to be below. Click the links below to pick up your full copy because there is so much that we have not been able to get into, and every single one of the NPCs has such a unique and wonderful backstory that ties into the plot so beautifully.
Yes, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, so the next day rolls around, and of course, the party on day 5, they've just arrived. There's 2 children missing now, and they're going to be asking questions, and whatnot. Well, next day rolls around, and there is the next module, Hysteria at the Mayor's Home module, and this is Bridget Paris. She is a young girl who the night hag's been haunting, and she slowly is succumbing to madness, and she's accusing all these people of witchcraft, and there she accuses Berenice Charant, the druid, of witchcraft, and the mayor trying to calm the crowd before they lynch somebody else. They've already lynched Agnes, but before they lynch somebody else, he's like, well, maybe these adventurers will go talk to the druid for us because she lives outside of town, you know
Yeah. See, this is just
and
like the Crucible with the Salem Witch Trials.
yes. And then Sibley Timmons, who's another rather prominent local who is on the city council. He is kind of a hard-nosed religious zealot type, and he begins the witch hunt module, which is accusing everybody he doesn't like of witchcraft,
There we go.
and he pushes the party to go grab up Berenice. So day 7, the next day rolls around. Uh, the witch hunt module gains momentum. You'll be able to read about that in the adventure. And Sibley wants to hold trials and attempts to hang accused witches. Meanwhile, Jacob Radamore, another child, is taken. So these children,
That's
it's
that's
all
three, right? That's three.
yeah. Well, and actually, there's another one that vanishes on day 6.
Oh, four. So that's four.
Yeah, 4. So Jacob Radamore disappears, and of course the party's going to do what they do, trying to solve this mystery. Where are these kids being taken? And that's when the night haunting of the party module kicks in, and that's a whole
Ooh.
deal that can have, if somebody fails their saving throw, can have a significant impact. Especially the next day when Shorir calls module begins, and Shorir, Bridget Paris accuses one of the heroes of witchcraft.
Ooh.
And of course, Sibley Timmons has been using Bridget, who's been tortured by this night hag, as kind of a dowsing rod to guide him to witches, right? And meanwhile, Tabitha Rethrin vanishes. And here's the important part. As soon as the last kid is taken, the rains stop permanently because now the witch needs the power of the cauldron to make the sacrifice, and it can no longer do all the terrible things it's been doing to the community. And this gives the party a window if they've already failed to penetrate the Hornwood. It gives them the opportunity to make this sprint for the barrow. Hopefully they've helped the little ghosts of the little kids and learned the location of the barrow from the ghosts. But uh, regardless of that, if the party, whether the party succeeds or fails to destroy the witch, the last day, day 9, there's a last module here, the Walk of the Dead, and that is when the night hags have decided we're just done with this community. We're gonna just purge it.
Sure. That
So
makes
they
sense.
unleash 30 zombies on the village,
It's like a
and
failsafe.
yeah, so it's just like so if the party, even if the party succeeds and returns a hero on day 8, or actually probably be on day 9 by the time they get back, um, you know, they could be in the tavern, singing the praises of the heroes and toasting with ale and whatnot, and suddenly there's screams outside as horde of undead begins to sweep through the town. So don't let your guard down, no matter what kind of thing. The, it's definitely an adventure that requires a lot of organization. Here's what I've done. I keep a spreadsheet of all of the NPCs in the town and all the little side adventures and little side stories that go on. So like I said, every single family has its own story and has its own hook and gives the party an opportunity to earn more XP. Uh,
Well, like all modules, it does require organization and some reading and some planning ahead. But I will say, Matt, after looking over your module, the way that you have organized it and the way it's written is really DM friendly. I genuinely appreciate being able to have a module that does most of the work for me as far as descriptions and the backstories and, a lot of different options for my parties. And your module does that. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Uh, the different ghosts there, and these ghosts are so important. And I tried to build one of the things the reason it's so important is because you can find out where where the witch's barrow is through the ghosts, which is part of the reason I had one of the ghosts escape. It gives the party another location to discover that they can learn important information, like where is this witch's barrow? So if
Hmm.
the party never goes and confronts Mercy, they can still find Elijah. And then, even then, there's another fail safe. So I had mentioned to you that I kept pictures of every single family. So like Bridget Paris. Here's Bridget. You can
She's
see she's just a
pretty.
normal girl. But the night hag is slowly wearing on her psyche. And by the time she's accusing a party member of witchcraft, she is now like totally just lost her mind, right? Just totally lost it. So having these pictures of each and every individual as you step through um, can be a huge help in setting the mood, setting the tone. Um,
Look at
Now,
all these NPCs, by the way, guys. I mean, that's a long list.
this guy is an interesting.
Ooh.
This is the fail-safe to to the other to the ghost. So if the party doesn't free the ghost from Mercy Went, never meets Elijah Timmons, um, there's this guy, Amos Puffifer. He
He's cute.
was the last victim 30 years earlier of the Days of Blight. Only he was able to escape. He's the example of, oh, this kid made his saving throw on his way out of town. and the hag had to scramble and grab somebody else. Only
Oh.
only he made it all the way to the witch's barrow before he was able to shake off the experience and escape. So he knows where the witch's barrow is, but all that experience drove him insane. So he's like this insane individual that the party has to communicate with to learn information if they fail to get it other places. So it's really important that if there's a critical piece of information, that there are layers of ways that the party can get that information.
See, and that's what I appreciate about this module is you've created a series of fail safes. So no matter what happens, even if you have like I don't want to say the worst party that you play with, but the worst party you play with, you can force feed them information if need be.
Yes, and so there are other things that uh, they can help the party can to give the party a little bit of extra flavor. So there is a dryad that lives in the Hornwood. Only when it gets corrupted by the hag, the dryad goes insane and becomes a corrupted dryad. So there's a moment in there where the party has to deal with a corrupted dryad. This tangle of trees are just dozens of bodies where the night hag has stored them. That's where all the zombies are. So the party could potentially circumvent the whole Walk of the Dead module. The hunting lodge is where a local ranger lives, and he could be enlisted to help the party. So there are avenues to get support. So if the party is really struggling, they can get help if they need. And of course, Berenice, she's here to hunt the Grey Coven, so she obviously would help the party. So there are a number of ways for the party to enlist help if they need it. But yeah, so this is Days of Blight book one. The whole thing is a trilogy. So maybe we'll do another one of these where we talk about part
Well,
two.
hang on. If we get enough likes, we will go ahead and do the second one for
Mhm.
sure. So we need 100 likes for us to be able to do the second one. So like, comment, subscribe. We need 100 likes, and then we will definitely do a Days of Light too. Did you guys enjoy this adventure? I know I did. I can't wait to run it.
Guys, don't let me down. If I don't get 100 likes, I'll be so sad. This was
Oh.
actually a bestseller on DM's Guild. It's only like $3 or $4. So it's a PDF. But you could get the hard copy if it's like I don't remember $12 or $13 for the actual paperback copy of it. And yeah, I'm very proud of this adventure. I'm actually proud of the whole trilogy. So the in the second one, the party will work with Berenice to figure out the location of the Grey Coven itself and go after the Grey Coven at the Tree of Blight. And that's part two. And then part three, the party delves into Hades to confront Shilrir the Haglich and put an end to her evil once and for all.
That's so exciting.
All right, that's what I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Here's to Aberfelty 16. I love it.
It was definitely worth opening today. So yes,
Yes.
comment, like, subscribe, share this video. Make sure we get to that 100 likes. We appreciate all of you. And as always, come back and have another round on us.
Thanks, guys.